Good morning, good afternoon. It is May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. Star Wars Day all around the world.
Also with you.
Yeah, may the Force be with
Yeah.
you, James Azrael. Always. Always.
And also with you.
James is with us once again. We had so much fun talking with James about the HSPPA and props and everything else. I thought, well, here on May the 4th, why don't we talk about some of your best Star Wars props and maybe even a little bit of your Spaceballs props, because without Star Wars, where would Spaceballs be, right?
Spaceballs, I always consider Spaceballs part of Star Wars.
It absolutely is, right? It's the same as Hardware Wars is a part of the Star Wars family.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. And
it's awful. It's awful, but it's
Hardware Wars is the very first fan film, isn't it?
There has to have been other people who like sat down and made fan films, but like I think technically that is correct. I think it was the first one that at least gained notoriety anyway.
Right, that people know about, and there were VHS copies in stores, and it's crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, and again, like, a testament to the popularity of Star Wars, which is, and I realize that I have it up on the screen already. I think we're going to end up starting right there.
Sure.
But what we came here to do today was talk about the props that we are that from the movies that we love, that James Azrael is the curator of the HSPPA is restoring, maintaining, keeping, and sharing the lore on. And for the first thing that we get into, though, is you were talking about this particular item. We'll notice that it's not painted. Why is that? And then what's the difference between like screen used and production?
All right. So I guess the name is up there, so we can't play the guessing game. I will understand how these cameras work at some point. I'm just going to give the full view here. So what this is, and I think the way it goes is like this. So this is the B1 battle droid Phi.
Yep,
little skinny suckers. So
that little flange part by your right hand there is on the inside. You're on your right hand's on the inside.
Right. Oh, there we go. Okay. I'm glad someone gets how this works. Yeah. So
I'm cheating though. I'm looking at put photos on the web. So.
Oh, see, there you go. I'm seeing myself on the screen and trying to get the right angle. So that was. One day I'll understand how that works. But yeah, so this is the thigh. It's two sides. This is vacuum formed, and this is from Revenge of the Sith, so episode 3, and they were all CGI in that one. So this is one of the would have been one of the droids that were destroyed, one of the exploded bodies in the hangar, and like the hangar in the beginning of the film, or throughout. So wherever there was piles of battle droids, there was vacuum formed chunks of robot debris.
And the B1 battle droid notoriously almost explosively deconstructed upon impact.
Roger.
They're not necessarily like I mean, if I was a droid and I realized that I was a B1, I'd be like, man, why?
Well, and that's if I remember correctly, after the events of episode 1, they started deriving personality.
Right.
They were controlled as a sole unit throughout the events of the Nemodian attempted takeover, blah blah. That they discovered that because destroying the one destroyed them all, that they separated them out, and that's when we start getting a lot of the humor out of the battle droids, and I think that assisted in their, if you will, survival.
Well, anytime you take something out of the collective, right? It's always one of those things where self-preservation becomes a somewhat important trait. But I have to imagine though that for any fighting force, you'd probably want a little bit of self-preservation to maintain, unless you had just an unlimited supply, which I guess droids are fairly copious amounts.
We get into a very heavy topic going into the self-preservation of droid.
Well, and that's why they had the clones, was to have numerous
Yeah,
warriors and not have to
yeah.
worry too much about the cost of war. Um, and speaking of, we get into the
Mm.
cost of war a little bit, but uh, the we have some other props related to, well, it's all a military story. Star Wars in its essence is a space
Yeah,
fantasy about the
it's
military aspects
got
of
the
it.
word war in it.
It does. And if we go up
Yeah,
chronologically,
yeah,
we can go into, let's take a look at, you've got something from Return of the Jedi.
yeah. So this caught on my mic's cord now. This would be a biker scout belt pouch ordeal, and again, it's vacuum formed plastic. I can't even imagine how uncomfortable some of this was to
Yeah.
wear. Um,
I think a lot of people don't realize that when they're making props for on screen, because they're only going to get the one shot and the one angle, they really don't finish those things in a way that is designed to be like a real costume, like a real clothing unit, or something that's comfortable.
oh yeah, yeah, and one of the big surprise here, you can see some of the glue and whatnot that they were just attached with. So that on that same note, these things are also only designed to make it through the use
Right.
that they need. Um, this is why so many things are gone now, and why, like with the HSPPA, we're trying to preserve them and keep them going so that we can enjoy these for a long time. Um, but yeah, it's funny production to production as to where they go with things. Like with Star Wars, especially with the high def things coming through and whatnot, you can see more and more of, in particular in A New Hope, of like stormtrooper armor splitting,
Right.
where it wasn't fully like attached, or there's duct tape holding it together, and
And you can see
you
a lot
know,
of wobble and stuff. Like you see, like if you go back
yeah,
and watch between the different movies, like in A New Hope, where everything was kind of experimental, and a lot of the people,
yeah,
bless them, and there's still no greater visual effects teams in the world for my money than ILM. But at the time when they're like kind of learning their craft, and there's people who are actually like doing things for the first time ever on
well,
screen,
yeah. I mean,
and it's like
ILM
you
was just
see,
a bunch of like engineers and architects
yeah,
that just got together. So yeah,
a bunch of nerds who said like, hey, we can do this, we can do that, and then
yeah,
they and that's the thing too about a lot of the ILM stuff, is so much that it's like, again, it was so experimental. We hadn't seen anything like it, so they had to do things that no one had never had done before in order to make it
yeah.
appear on film to be that way. But then the
But
result of
what's
that sometimes is
crazy is
that
they still are.
what's their MO, right? Is to do things that we've
Yeah,
never seen.
yeah.
Um, the uh, the
Mm.
the thing about that piece though that you've got, like you said, you couldn't verify that it was on screen, or
Yeah, I mean, as we've mentioned before, the only surefire thing to do is to screen match something, and this is impossible to screen match. But being that I can't prove that it was ever on screen and used, I simply just call it a production piece. Um,
sure.
there's glue on it and whatnot. It gives you
So it was likely
idea
attached to
that,
a full unit, so it's probably was probably on screen, but um,
yeah, maybe it was just a rehearsal shot. Something went wrong. I mean, it is broken, but did that breakage happen at what point?
sure.
I don't know. So as a collector, it's always just safer to lower the bar as to what something is.
Lower your
um,
expectations. Safe.
right, because I mean, the first thing the naysayers want to do is to discredit you and your, and I,
Sure.
I would much rather be wrong about something being unused than wrong about saying something is used.
Right. Right. Because then your word is in
Yeah,
question like forevermore once you've made
yeah,
that mistake.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm sure other collectors appreciate that about you.
Yeah.
But but that's a very practical thing. In practically, what do you think is in a stormtrooper or a scout trooper's belt? What do you think that they carry
Uh,
around with them day to day?
well, I mean, because they were on Endor, this particular one would have been on Endor. I am sure that they were carrying around Ewok jerky.
Ewok jerky. So,
Oh, yeah,
so you
yeah.
think they killed, cooked, and smoked Ewok meat?
I mean, if the Ewoks did it to them,
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. Where did they
yeah,
learn it? Where did they learn it? Right? I learned it from watching you,
those-
Dad.
yeah,
That's how they
right,
learned it.
yeah,
Um, that's a good point.
yeah,
It says officially, the story is that
officially,
there is actually a detonator. So those are literally uh, bomb belts as well.
really,
Yeah,
wow.
I feel
I would
like
not want that around my waist.
no, I feel like again, going back to like the
Uh,
disappointment of finding out that you were a B1 droid, and
right,
then I think also if I worked for a
you're
military that was so cavalier about the safety of their employees, and the retention of
you're
their
something of
troops,
a kamikaze.
yeah, I feel like,
Yeah.
I mean, is that like, is there like a
Although,
remote activation on it or what's going on?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, that might explain some of the increased explosions on the speeder bike
That's a good
battle.
point. That's a great point. Like, because those things go up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, OSHA should really look into that too. Like those things explode
Yeah.
pretty dramatically. Um, but there you are. And then and then that as that attaches all the way around the waist, there's a number of other components that would attach into that. That's as you said before, it's the compartment or the box.
Yeah, this would be the belt boxes and compartments. From here, I know it is broken because it's broken here, but this does go further back, and there were belt loop attached. If we're talking costume versus
Right.
actual scout trooper, yeah, there were like loop um belt loop type what are those
Like
pull
web
those
belt.
annoying like yeah, there you go, thank you,
Yeah.
web belt thing that then attached to the back. So
That's
yeah, if you
awesome.
can, is this the one? Yeah, there we go. Oh, he's off screen.
All
This
right.
one.
Right. So, so what uniform
Yeah.
is that you're attaching that to?
that's a Hufflepuff.
Hufflepuff
That's
wouldn't be scout troopers. They wouldn't be scout troopers.
no, they wouldn't.
Yeah. We're crossing up the lore here, but I have to make a stand on that. I have to make a
Yeah.
stand on that.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
definitely Slytherin could, potentially Ravenclaw, not
Yeah.
Gryffindor, not Hufflepuff, not buying it.
Hufflepuff is more the Ewok.
Oh yeah, no, they would be.
Yeah.
They would. All of the Ewoks are Hufflepuff. That's
Yeah.
that's headcanon now forever. I
Yeah.
think.
Nub
Um,
nub.
do you want a nub nub? So what about First Order? So the other thing, so people who definitely also not be would also not be in,
Just
and we'll get to this. I know you didn't know this about me before, but I am a huge Star Wars nerd, so I do know more than a few lines in Ewok. But or whatever the
nice. Nice.
because I think that what C3PO
Ewokese.
said,
Yeah.
he said Ewokese, but he said it was like
Yeah.
a offshoot of another language that was close to actually to Treewook and some other stuff. Like in lore, it's like
Okay.
there's like this weird
Yeah.
distant relationship that
Yeah.
Ewoks and the Wookiees have. Um, but going into more about the Empire and about the what happens later, talk about the First Order. What else did you have? What else have you been able to recover from the Imperial
So
designations?
these are from the Force Awakens. These are unused First Order patches. Um, so this first one here, these would have been on the cuffs of the uniforms, and you can, these are officers, so they're the coats and whatnot, and they're a little harder to see in the movie.
Have you done
But
the
this one
translation
is
on the Arabesh on that yet?
I did, and I don't remember it offhand. I do have it though.
All right.
Um, they they mean different things, obviously, but they actually meant different things. Oh God, why is it over?
It's hard
There we
because
go.
it's normally you're used to what like a mirror does, so it's going to be the exact opposite of a mirror because you're actually seeing what other
Yeah.
people see, not a reflection. Yeah, I know it's weird
Oh
sometimes.
God, it's a mind screw, man. So this, and I don't remember this one. There's one of them that actually stands for Cushing.
Huh.
So it had some of the hidden messages in them. And I do have that. I can look that up and maybe you can post it. Um, so that was the lieutenant stripe, and that would be the guy that walked in on Kylo Ren's tantrum.
So and was that one actually screen used? So that was
No,
he
no, no. These are unused patches. Yeah,
these are unused, but they represent the ranks, the same folks. Because the
yeah,
guy that got the
yeah,
guy that got yanked into the room by the force,
yeah, yeah. Those
unfortunate
are
timing.
his. And then this set were worn together on the cuff, and you will never see that on screen, as this is the admiral, and you only see the admiral at the big um, rally
Sure,
speech
review
ceremony,
the review on the
if you
stand.
will.
Yeah,
Yes, the First Order. Yeah,
it is the
right as they're
time,
about to annihilate the star system. So
right?
yeah, that's he's standing, I think, to the back right of Domhnall Gleeson. Um,
Also, General Hux.
General Hux, yes. It might be Hux's that had Cushing on it. I don't know. I'll have to look. It's actually it's neat because it's one of those things that they snuck Easter eggs in by using the.
Right. So they gave like an Arabesh somebody says so Peter Cushing, who was Grand Moff Tarkin, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, giving homage to the originals, the original scary
yeah,
officers of the original Empire, right?
yeah.
Peter Cushing, who I think as I got older, like when I was a kid, I didn't really care. Like I always thought like Tarkin was like, yeah, whatever. I didn't, like he was just another guy in a uniform that was not nearly as cool as Darth Vader or the Emperor.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But he was
Oh,
way
so
scarier.
yeah, you
I
go
mean,
back as an
he
adult
stood
and watch
right
episode
up to
4. It's like,
Vader.
yeah, he didn't
Yeah.
give a damn about Vader. He was like,
Oh.
whatever, dude.
Mm,
I mean, he didn't insult him either. He didn't. He
yeah.
had respect for him, right?
Yeah.
And he. I think he. So there's a great comic book recently by Marvel that goes into Tarkin a little bit and talks a little bit about who he was, and actually has it kind of establishes their power ranking in the Empire with the Emperor versus each other,
Did you
right?
read the
So
book?
yeah.
Did you read the book, Tarkin?
No, I did not.
It came out before Disney owned them, so I don't know if
So
they
it's Legends then,
they
right?
kept it. Yeah, but they brought some of it over. But that I didn't know about the comic, so I'm curious about the
So
comic if they took from the book.
I don't know if they took
Like,
from the book, but I do know that it was
yeah,
post Disney, so it's
yeah,
definitely like canon story about Tarkin, and it's
yeah.
and it
It's
talks
a
about
really interesting story.
yeah I mean I think it might have drawn some from it because it does talk about his origin story, and I
Mm,
remember correctly, yeah it made him a much more compelling character overall,
yeah,
and there's been more in
ruthless,
the
just
comics.
ruthless.
Incredibly so, right? You're just like, "Whoa,"
Yeah,
yeah, as an adult, just recognizing that kind of psychopathy, you're like, "Ooh," like
yeah,
like Darth Vader kinda makes sense, actually, like, he's not
yeah,
like, I could suffer enough trauma to dress up like that and run around stabbing people with a laser sword. Tarkin, though, is like, man, that's you gotta be born that evil, like, I can't.
yeah. Yes. I mean, yeah, I mean, and his stuff in Rogue One too, just really kind of brought some of that out too. Yeah.
So, which raises a good question. If you could live if you were in the Star Wars universe, if you were put into a military status, what part, what core, what side would you be in?
Oh man, I mean,
We've all thought about this. We know the answers
I mean,
in our hearts.
does Force user count?
Okay, so everybody wants to be a Force user. Like obviously, if there were powers that were above and beyond what you would have
If
as
there's
a
a
normal
choice,
person,
wouldn't you?
yeah. If you were a choice, it's always going to be Jedi or Sith, right? Like it's always one of the
I would
two,
choose
right?
gray.
Choose
I would
gray
choose
because the middle
gray.
path.
Oh yeah,
I think
yeah. I mean,
they've
because I
officially said
know,
there's not gray
I
though,
would.
didn't they?
Oh no, I mean, Ahsoka's gray. Luke is technically gray, if you're really looking at him in the last films. Um,
So non-Force
but
users, what would you
yeah.
pick?
I mean, it would have to be the rebellion. Um, I don't, and not even that. I think it would probably be mercenary bounty hunter type because I mean, I don't like structure.
Sure. Yeah, waking up really early in the
The
morning, it's not fun. It's not good.
Yeah,
Running around. Yeah.
I would be drug out the street and shot real quick in the Imperial ranks. But I mean, in the rebellion, they make you think that you're a bunch of ragtags, but I mean, look at what they did to Han. They made him wear a uniform at
I
one point, gave him
know.
a rank.
It domesticated. I think that was love, though.
Um,
That was love for Leia.
yeah,
If it wasn't for Leia,
yeah.
he would have bounced. Like he would have been long gone. He was into that. So
They as ragtag as they were still a military structure. So I definitely feel like I fall more into um that even without the Jedi thing, that gray area of just kind of, I one of my favorite Star Wars books, which is of course legend now, is like Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina
uh-huh.
and Tales from Jabba's Palace, and
Yep.
it's
And then there was the Bounty Hunters one too. There was those like series
yeah,
of individual tales. Yep.
I like the non side chosen
Sure.
groups of people that
I
are
think
just
that's
kind of in this universe,
I think that's an important point actually, because like I think one of the reasons why Mandalorian is so good is that it honors the universe in a way that a lot of other things
Yeah.
don't. And every time we return to like the Skywalker story or whatever else, we end up having to talk about, the galactic warfare. And
Yeah.
the title is Star Wars, get it, right? Um but there's so much more going on. The world building is really what is so effective about that series, about the Star Wars series,
Yeah.
is that all of us, we could all find different pieces of it to explore and become a part of. As for me, I would actually, I think you were pretty close. I would want to be an A-wing pilot, but as soon as I got my A-wing, I'd be like, peace later, and then just be like hyperspace out of there, and like and just go, and I would just be like flying around asteroid belts until I crashed and died. I mean, I like just like looking at how those things move. I'm just like, oh my god, I would love to have one of those. It's like a jet
That
ski
would
in
be pretty
space,
quick.
you know.
Um,
Um,
they didn't have very strong shields, and there was mostly all just speed.
yeah, I'm into it. I like it.
Yeah.
Give me that. Just floor
I love the
it.
B wings.
Yeah, the B wings. I mean, those are the tankers, right? Though, I mean, those are the heavy hitters.
They are, but the B wing was made to replace the Y wing as a bomber,
Right.
but it also added in the firepower of an X wing and the speed of an A wing. So it was kind of all of them. It wasn't as fast as an A wing, but it was up there, and it always disappointed me how little they utilize them in the series.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was one of those things. Like, it also was one of those things at the end of Return of the Jedi. You had, uh, you know, such a huge amount of vehicles at that last battle, and the B wing feature was like that's kind of the only place that was really featured prominently,
Yeah.
in the original trilogy. Although I think we're digressing a little bit, but in an important way, because we're getting onto the extended universe, and it's aviation themed, space travel themed.
It's canon, man. Star Tours is canon.
It is.
It is. Star Tours is canon, and that's one of the I always
That's
when I was a
wow. It's
kid
great.
and I first walked into Star Tours, like it was incredible and how I think I'm gonna feel when I make it to Galaxy's Edge and I see the Falcon. But when I first saw that ad at, and I got to ride to talk to RX and just live in that world, it was just incredible. And as the years went, I started collecting this stuff and whatnot, and then out of the blue, the Clone Wars cartoon
Yep.
had a cameo of billboards and stuff of Star Tours.
Oh,
Star Tours Travels Agency.
so there is a travel agency in canon.
There is a travels
That's
agency. So
amazing.
Star Tours became canon via the Clone Wars, and now I bring out my Star Tours stuff to conventions, and part of my HSPPA displays as being part of the Star Wars lore and whatnot. So where's the
That's
patch?
awesome. Yeah, the patch is on your left hand. Yeah,
There it is.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
So this is opening 1986, 1987 uniform for Star Tours.
That's
This is
awesome.
the T-shirt. Yeah. There's the.
Where did you acquire that?
This is. Am I getting it?
Yep. Extra large.
MGM. Yeah, MGM Studios. Um.
How did that how did that come your way?
Just part of my routine searching and travels.
So source unknown, destination unknown. But there's another component. There's another component to that. I understand.
Yeah. So that this is one of the boarding passes.
Wow. Here, just hold it in one spot for a second. Let's let it focus. So the speeder, Star Speeder 3000, service Star Speeder service, destination Andor. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so Star Speeder 3000 Endors, and then so this is what they gave to the like Disney calls their employees cast members. So
Yep.
this was what was given to the cast members for opening night or preview night, so that they could experience, and so this one was Flight 1120 on January 16th, 1987. And this is an unused one. This is there's where they tore them off, so you could
Wow.
reuse it.
So they actually had to use the boarding passes to go use the ride?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and they had different ones. There was different colors, and I can't tell you offhand right now what each one was, but there was a black, this turquoise one, red one, and I think a dark blue one. And there were different things for like press or VIP cast members.
This was like during the promotional period of the event, so it
Right.
wasn't necessarily
Yeah.
like what they would use like every day though.
Right. Yeah. I think right up there at the top it says cast premiere.
Cast premiere. All right, that clarifies things in my head there. So and then but then Disney, like, so I remember when I was a little kid and when Disney got Star Tours and there's the launch bay PP. So when Disney picked up Star Tours, it always blew my mind that Disney would be as interested in like Disney always did its own stuff, and even then I kind of understood that it was a very unique moment that Lucasfilm was working with Disney to do Star Wars and Indiana Jones themed rides.
Yeah.
And I always thought, oh well,
at MGM too, which really made it confusing.
right.
Yeah.
But that ended though, the MGM stuff, right? Like MGM ended up kind of getting pulled into the
Star Tours. Yeah, Star Tours and the Indiana Jones thing were at the MGM Studios though, before Disney took over.
Right. Right. Well, and then they made that a whole different park itself.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that's a PPE for. So that was the launch bait, and that is still
Yeah,
at
this
Disneyland now. You can go and take your kids or whatever to become Jedi for the day, or do like
well,
dance
no,
offs with Boba
I
Fett.
don't know that Launch Bay is still there because of the Galaxy's Edge.
It was there. It was there last time I went,
Was it? Okay.
which is like
Uh,
4 months ago, 5 months ago.
they started and I have some Launch Bay uniforms too. Some of those gray dress uniforms that the cast members wore.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's been quite since I've been there, so I don't really know what they've kept or whatnot. One of my favorite things during this whole Launch Bay thing was their takeover of Space Mountain and turning it into a Star Wars Space Mountain ride.
Oh, I hadn't seen that. Oh,
Yeah,
you know what? I do remember they did that, and there was like TIE fighters that flew by instead of the asteroids.
yeah,
Like they changed the
right,
asteroids out to TIE fighters flying by you and stuff. Yeah.
right, and basically just put stickers in the waiting line that said like, our airbrush and there was schematics of different ships and things and instead of the Space Mountain.
I'm gonna be real about that though.
I,
I am a Sergeant Beep is going nuts. Yeah.
I don't even hear it. I don't
No,
even hear it myself. I'm so
well,
used to it.
yeah, I no, it's funny. He's like, no, dude, I loved Star Tours too, man. He's like going nuts over there. No, we all do, Sergeant Beep. Let me tell you though, the one of the things that I'm a purist. I'm a like an original rides kind of guy. So, for instance, when they do the stuff with the Nightmare ah Nightmare Before Christmas stuff at the haunted mansion, I don't like it. I like the original haunted mansion
I
only.
don't know anything about that.
They do a whole takeover where they change it all to the Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
and
wow.
it's all around Christmas time.
But it's not
Yeah.
permanent though.
Uh, no, I mean it's like half the year though. It's like a lot of time is
Oh,
spent
is
with
it?
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
they kind of
Mm,
flip flop back and forth a lot. But
mm.
I have now taken to only going to the park when I get to see the original ride. So because I'm that hardcore purist. But but I will accept that it is a novel experience once in a while to see your
Yeah,
stuff, your
yeah.
chocolate get dipped in the peanut butter, et cetera, et cetera.
Man,
Um,
I am so ridiculous. The last time I was at the parks, it was Disneyland. I think it was like 2016 or something. And the family, it was a family trip that we had. My niece had just been born, and my other niece and nephew were were still in that age of the parks being magical to them
sure,
before they're too cool for school, and and for me it's
13 or so,
always
yeah.
been always been pure magic. So but
Yeah.
so the whole family went out there, and this was my first time in Disneyland. It had always been Disney World, so there was an added you know experience to that. But my entire family left me in the launch bay area because they couldn't stand like being around there. I think I was just wandering around for like 4 or 5 hours on my own, just in the Star Wars world. And I mean, I even and simply like the food place, even like I had to try. I don't remember what it was. It was a um, Jawa blue milk peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something.
Yeah, sure.
Or
Yeah, it was a
and
PB&J, but it was something to do with
but it had
Jedi,
like
and that
blue
made a
bread.
difference.
Yeah. Well, it had blue bread, and
Right, right.
so there was the dark side burger and things like I had to do that stuff because I'm a sucker for all the gimmicks. And it was good food,
So you're like, "I wanna stay
for
here."
being
You're like,
a
"I wanna
park
stay I
like
wanna
that.
stay in this area," and then your family's like, "Ah, no, we're gonna go
Yeah, they just
check out
left
the
me
rest of the
right
park.
because
You can just stay here."
in the launch bay itself, it had all this memorabilia of there was helmets and lightsabers and I was around for so long that at one point one of the cast members had just grabbed me because there was like nobody around, and they just
Like,
grabbed me and
do you have people?
well, they pulled me into a room, and it was Chewbacca was in there, so
Oh
it
wow.
was one of the yeah. Well, it was the character meet and greet, thing, but nobody had been around, and they saw me and they pulled me in there,
Awesome.
and they point at me to Chewbacca, and he growls, and he comes over and he grabs me, and then turns me and pushes me out. I had been wearing my T-shirt that said "Support our troops," and there was stormtroopers across it.
It's like,
Decided to
yeah, they just
turn me
tortured and
into
killed his
Chewie.
family. Like, why would he not
So,
be excited about
yeah,
that? Like,
but,
but
then
I
they took me back in and took it was fun. It was amusing that happened, but
I will
yeah.
admit at the meet and greets, like I'm a total like
Yeah.
I always think I'm a big tough adult man, and I go to the meet and
Yeah.
greets at like Disneyland, and I'm and I can't even really
Yeah.
talk to them, or I'm just and I like and I just kind of I just kind of like soak in the experience as much as I can, and then I just move on.
Yeah.
Like I think I've done like the ones like I last on my birthday last year, I ended up in the Darth Vader one. I was just like, you know,
Yeah.
and the actor, the cast member who's playing Darth Vader. I mean, he's huge. He's a monster
Yeah.
of a man, and you're like, oh my god, like this is really Darth Vader. Like, and so whatever instinct I had from my childhood to respond to Darth Vader definitely happened at that time.
Right.
But speaking about the realities of things, I think
Yeah.
we've got one more thing,
Yeah.
and we're kind of getting along on
Yeah.
time. As I'm sure we have hundreds more Star Wars stories, like
Oh
all of
God.
our friends in the world who love Star Wars too. But what do you have from the newest Star Wars content edition?
So what I have here, and this is still in part a research project, but this would be the debut of showing it. This is from The Mandalorian and would be considered like an executive crew gift. Um, it's made of, I don't know if you can hear that,
Wow.
of various metals. It's supposed to look like a bronzed helmet on a
Yeah.
base.
It very well
And
could be bronze or copper. I mean, it's the
yeah.
patina. Is the patina a faked
But
patina,
we
or is it?
also know how well that's the thing is, like, I couldn't tell you. But we know how great artists are at replicating and making things look
Yeah.
how
No, yeah.
they
Yeah, we
want
discussed
them
that
to.
earlier. Metallurgy is
Yeah.
even just is difficult enough just to pronounce, let alone perform.
Yeah. Yes. I'm not even gonna try it again. But yeah, so that's just a cool item. It blows my mind on these executive that anyone would get rid of them.
Yeah, I find that hard too.
Know?
Like what like someone's just like, yeah, whatever. Like, and it was one of
Yeah.
the most popular. It was the most popular launch show for Disney Plus, obviously, and it's still like in the top three of all of the content they could be watching on
Yeah.
Disney Plus. Top three still.
I mean, it crashed Disney Plus on opening day.
Yeah,
You know.
unbelievable. Why would
Yeah.
you give that away? It's whoever you are that gave it, you ingrate. I'm probably talking to like Bob Iger now or something. Like, oh
Right.
great, like.
Yeah.
Oh well,
No,
this channel was fun while it lasted. Anyway,
I hope he gets another one so I can get the next seasons.
I know, yeah. What is the next one? It'll be in the shape of like
Right.
the armorer's helmet or something.
Right.
All right, favorite Mandalorian
Yeah.
moment. Now that we're on that topic of the
I
new
mean,
series, what blew your mind?
maybe Yoda is obviously an incredible thing. But do we have to worry about spoilers? Are we clear of spoilers, you think?
I think that if you haven't watched The Mandalorian yet, just stop watching this video right now and go do that, and then return to the video
I'll
at
give
some future date. Done. We're spoiler clear.
awesome. My favorite moment is that very last scene when Moff and I can't think of Giancarlo Moff comes out of the TIE fighter with the dark saber. Just seeing that dark saber light up. I'm like,
Yeah, I think that's the biggest. Like, it's like
Yeah.
when we see about extended universe stuff, there's always the heavy-handed ways to tie back to the original stuff, which is,
Yeah.
if you all you have to sue is I got a bad feeling about this, right? And everybody knows what you're doing, right? But going through all of the material and the stuff that Filoni worked on himself, right? The Clone Wars, and then producing connections to those pieces in a meaningful
Yeah.
way that continue the stories that you are already in love with and
Yeah.
connect to these new characters and new stories to those stories. I mean, I think that's always a very potent combination. And
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Absolutely.
Favreau and Filoni are both just incredible storytellers, are incredibly careful and reverent with all of the themes and backstory of everything, and don't um I really don't like I've never thought about like talking about political content or everything else. I know that I do feel though that it's a Hollywood tendency to cast or hire directors or writers or other people based on the press release ability of it to try to get more attention on things
The
but
the marquee value.
yeah, it's well they joke
Yeah.
about it stunt casting, right? Like grabbing a big
Yeah.
star and throwing them in a role that they might not otherwise fit. And in fact, Billy D. Williams was kind of a stunt cast in episode 5, but um but I think that
I
you
don't think
know
anybody could have ever played Lando like he
no,
did.
no. I mean, he was. I mean, he's so like
He was Lando before Lando,
if yeah,
with
if Lando wasn't written to be this smooth, super cool character, like he became that because of Billy D. Williams, because Billy D. Williams is just the
yeah.
smoothest man alive, right? But I think that again, you're going into the casting and the writing and everything else, Favreau and Filoni are absolutely the right guys to shepherd this type of extended universe type stuff because they're so careful with it. And it wouldn't matter,
Yeah.
and it really doesn't matter, if you attach their names because of Marvel or anything else, because it's their skill that matters so much.
It is, and there's something about Star Wars too that, I mean, Star Wars itself is the marquee. So,
Right.
dropping in, and which is also kind of a unique thing with these new films, um, because of all these names that are in them that we don't even know about. I mean, in Last Jedi, the Prince Harry was in a scene in a stormtrooper
Yeah. Well, I
outfit.
think I think that when in a celebrity's but I mean that
Yeah,
speaks, and here's this thing about I think Kathleen Kennedy is rightfully concerned that making sure that new fans come in, but I think that doing the same thing that Hollywood has done to encourage new fans of something that's already so established and so reverent, it doesn't necessarily need to happen that way. And
yeah,
when you're talking about things like JJ, like let's hire JJ Abrams, like yeah, he's a big name, but is he the right guy for making these stories? And you talk because just look at the way he makes a movie. Is that the kind of storytelling that this
yeah,
is? And if that checks all the boxes, then great. But if it's just because that his name alone is going to get you a number of
right,
of
yeah,
of
yeah,
headlines in the New York Times, I don't think that's the right way to do it. And I think that unfortunately there's been some tendencies at Disney to do kind of the Hollywood method of building these things. Whereas
yeah,
when you start to go off the track and you end up with somebody like The Mandalorian, and then you end up with this blowout hit. And I'm sure there are people at Disney who are like, oh, this was just supposed to be like an interesting one-off thing. Like, ooh, now we've got this whole track of content that we've got to continue making, right? Like we were just gonna make that for the Disney
yeah,
Plus thing, and oh my gosh, now we have the most popular piece of the Disney of the Star Wars universe to
yeah,
curate for a while.
yeah, and they did such a great job with that. I mean, it's the Mandalorian felt so Star Wars, and like how I felt like reading the old expanded universe
Yep.
stuff. It was just so on point with being in
Yeah.
this galaxy far, far away.
The book that we mentioned earlier that raised to me was that bounty hunters one where it followed all the different
Yeah,
bounty hunters, and it might have been Tales from Jabba's Palace, but it was one of the ones that was essentially a compilation of stories, of short stories about individual bounty hunters, and it like followed Boba Fett into the
The
pit,
pit. Yeah.
and then it also had like Dengar, right, and it elucidated on all the personalities of all these different bounty hunters. Mandalorian, if you haven't seen it, there's a lot of in it, and that will take you back to Star Wars in a way that really no other content has. So if you haven't watched it, if you've not followed my advice and absorbed a bunch of spoilers, nothing is spoiled. Go watch it; it's amazing. There's tons of stuff in there that you will not believe what's happening and when it's happening.
To be fair, it came out November 1st.
That's what I'm saying. There's a statute of limitations on these things, people. You can't expect us to stay silent in our joy for that long. It's up to you at some point to deal with your own lack of culture.
So there was one scene, right? There was one scene in Mandalorian that is full of rumor by the fans and guessing and figuring out. Have an idea where I'm going with this?
There's more than one, I think, but yeah.
But there's a huge one, and it's during the sniping scene on Tatooine.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
And
Spurs.
All you hear, yes, you see a boot and you hear spurs. Now, the obvious is everybody's like, "Oh, Boba Fett," right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. I beyond the fact that would be kind of crazy if Bubba was there.
Well, Boba was still. I mean, this is pre. What's the era for these? This is post Clone Wars.
This is after Return.
All right, so it's between
Fallen.
It's between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens.
Right, and I think it's 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
So I really think that was oh my God, what's her name? The girl Mandalorian from Rebels.
Sabine,
yeah.
Yeah, Sabine, I think is her name. Yeah.
I think it's Sabine.
Could be. She wears spurs?
I don't know, but I don't know if that in fact was
It'd be more likely if it was Sabine, because then you could get some backstory on her. Rebels happens around the same time too, right?
Rebels happens after right before Rogue One.
Right before Rogue One, so that puts it puts it like years before. But the Rebels ship, the Ghost or whatever, was actually seen in one of the scenes in Mandalorian as well. But there's a lot of stuff in Mandalorian that's like, there's a lot of Easter eggs and things in there that remind you about which universe you're paying attention to. I mean, it very well could be. I think like they've already said pretty much that Ahsoka's coming back. In essence,
they cast her. So.
Yeah, and then when you look at her too, you're like, oh my God, she look like, if you can just imagine her in the face paint, you're like, oh yeah, she's clearly adult Ahsoka, right? Like you wouldn't be able to cast anybody else. But bring it back around. You have a number of other things, but one more thing you have, and related to the shirt that you've got there. I'm gonna, and we'll go ahead and close on this particular wonderful item. What have you got to show from Spaceballs? The ultimate tribute, the ultimate fan tribute. All right.
Look at that.
That's one big hairy mitt in a con.
Yeah. So that's Barf's foot. That's Barf's foot when they drop the yogurt statue onto his foot. So and it comically flattens out.
It's a good solid Mel Brooks physical comedy gag.
Right. Yeah.
Involving pain. It's important. It's important.
Yeah. So that's a flattened Mog foot. I
always wondered. Okay, that was one thing about Spaceballs that always bothered me a little bit, was like how different. Like, and I guess it's a matter of style, because you've got people who, when they parody something, they make something that rhymes with the original, right? Like you say, if you have Wookiees, there'd be like Gookie or Dookie or looky or something, right? Like you'd have like some other just replace the consonant at the beginning and you're done. But Mel Brooks went very, very deep with that, and he started like renaming everything differently. Maybe he
Yeah,
just didn't want to get sued.
yeah, yeah. No, I think it makes more sense in the context of the film. You know, everything would be kind of goofy if it would take away from the actual story. Because I mean, Mel isn't just simply doing a Mad Magazine
Right.
parody of Star Wars. You know, he creates art of its own.
He's an artist.
You know?
Don't question his art. This is a man that made a 10-minute scene about cowboys farting around a campfire after eating beans, sir. Don't tell me about his art. Okay. I mean, it is a classic scene, but
That was art. That was fart art.
It was fart. It was at its peak.
With the lower F.
Western fart. Well, James, thank you for sharing those crucial bits of your collection today with us. Happy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I enjoy being here.
Happy May the 4th. We'll reconnect with you again very soon and check out some more of your collection. If you are watching right now above, you see learn more about the HSPPA. It is a organization dedicated to the preservation, restoration, and display of the historical artifacts of our cumulative film culture. And this is James, and he's awesome. And you should support him by following both Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and check it out if you have a chance to check out Spooky Swirls in Chicago or
Spooky Swirls is in Phoenix.
Oh, excuse me, Phoenix. Outside of Phoenix.
But yeah, we're unfortunately closed though still due to the pandemic. So don't check that. But
yeah. One day. When but you shouldn't be leaving your house anyway. So when you can, go check out the locations. But thanks again, James, and we'll see you again real soon.
Oh, thank you, Tracy, and may the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you, sir, always.